Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth podcast. I'm Anish Gupta.
I'm Jack Smith.
So, yeah, I'm handling the intro, I guess, for today again. And so Jack and I were kind of looking at just the upcoming NFL season. And we all know every NFL game is interesting. You never know what team can win. Any team can win on any given Sunday. But we kind of picked out a few games specifically throughout the season, and we decided that those were the most interesting games of the 2020 season, just in our general opinion. So, Jack, you kind of want to start us off, give us one interesting game?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think no matter who you ask, the most interesting game comes in week 3. Early in the season, it's the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Baltimore Ravens. We've had plenty of debates on which team is better set up for the future, which team has a better roster, just which team's better in general. And now we get to see it out on the gridiron. And so this is going to be an amazing game. It was last year, and I think it will be this year too.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree more there. I think that's probably my number one if we were to give out a ranking. But I think just looking at it in general, this is probably going to be one of the most anticipated games of the 2020 season. Monday Night Football, bright lights. Last time we saw Lamar Jackson in primetime, it really wasn't a pretty sight. Last time we saw Patrick Mahomes in primetime, the guy won a Super Bowl. So it's a lot of interest there. Obviously, two young quarterbacks, two stars rising in this league, and I think it's just going to be a great matchup. I mean, if we were to give out early picks, you know what I'm going to take. I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes, but we'll save the picks for later. I think this is a game that it brings a lot to it, right? New roster with the Ravens. The Chiefs obviously kept Chris Jones, most of their Super Bowl core intact. We get to see some rookies shine out. Maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or however you say his name. Maybe he shines out. Calais Campbell, maybe he gets a couple sacks on Patrick Mahomes. So I think it's a great game.
I also think that another storyline is John Harbaugh. I think it's another chance for him to prove he's among the league's best coaches, because I know we said it throughout the year, but just kind of looking at what people said in the comments of our last Chiefs Ravens video and just kind of overall, people still aren't buying into the fact that John Harbaugh is one of the great coaches, saying he benefited from, a great roster and Lamar Jackson playing really well. But I think, if he can beat Andy Reid again like he did last year, I just think it's interesting because he can prove himself to be one of these top coaches by beating Reid twice.
That's a great point, man. I think John Harbaugh, in my opinion, I still remember during the season and a few episodes ago, like long time ago, I was saying, hey, Harbaugh should be a candidate for Coach of the Year. And what he did for this Ravens team, I think, there's many kind of excuses you could make, many types of things you could say, like, oh, he's had a good roster. Oh, like his defense was good, right? Ray Lewis, Ed Reed. But, I mean, he has a Super Bowl under his belt. He beat his brother in one of the best Super Bowls of this past decade. So I think you got to give him credit for that. But, yeah, that's a great point. Andy Reid's finally got one, and I think he's lamented himself as probably the second best coach in the league right now. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it is a battle of the coaches, which I think you brought up a great point there. So I think this matchup, I think we can both agree, is probably the most anticipated matchup of the 2020 season. But I'm probably going to move on to another one. Maybe let's stay Chiefs-centric here. What do you think about the Chiefs-Bucks? I think that's another one. Week 12. You know who it is. It's Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady for the third straight year going at it. I think it's going to bring a lot of excitement. I couldn't tell you who's going to win right now. But, hey, if Tom Brady, figures it out, by week 12, he's going to have, he's going to be integrated in the offense. Probably going to get Gronk back. Gronk's probably going to be doing well. So I think you're going to get the best of both teams, really, come week 12. And I think it's going to be a great matchup. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that while Chiefs-Ravens is a battle of very different offenses, the Ravens being a huge pound the rock offense on the ground and the Chiefs airing it out, Chiefs-Bucks in week 12, with the weapons that both of these teams have and the coaches that they have, this is going to light up the sky with how many passes they're throwing. And I just can't wait to watch this game. And I think that while both teams are recognized for their offenses, their defenses often get overlooked because, the Bucks did have a good defense last year. They were the number one rushing defense. And they've got up and coming players on the outside. We mentioned Jamel Dean in an episode before, Sean Murphy-Bunting. They have Antoine Winfield now. He'll be playing in his 12th week in the NFL. And then the Chiefs, like we said, they got Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Jones, Frank Clark. I think that this game, while everyone thinks it could be a shootout, there's also, don't rule out the chances that it's a defensive game too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I think both teams might plan on how to just outplay the other offense, that the defenses will know exactly what's coming. And this game I'm really excited for. The Chiefs have actually, like a lot of the big name teams this coming into this year have a lot of big games. We've got Chiefs Ravens. We just mentioned Chiefs Bucks. The Bucks play the Saints, the Packers. I mean, there's a lot of big games among the big teams, which is what's really exciting for the NFL season. But one that I kind of want to move on. We mentioned it just before. Chiefs Saints, the last kind of Chiefs game I think we can talk about. I have the Saints as my way too early Super Bowl favorite, and I think that both. I mean, most people regard the Chiefs and the Saints as the best team in each side. Some people will say have the Niners, but it's just having these two teams playing in week 15, I think it is. That could be a very important game for both teams trying to lock up maybe a number one seed. So, and it could be a Super Bowl matchup.
I think this one will be anticipated just because people will think, oh, it could have been a Super Bowl 53 matchup that we never got to see. You're right. I think these are the two teams that have the best rosters in their respective conferences. And Jack, yeah, I know you have the Saints your early Super Bowl pick, and I love Drew Brees as much as anyone. So, if we're being honest, it sucks for me to say this, but I think this is really his last chance at a ring. I don't think next year this is going to be the same roster. I really don't think so. Despite, most of their playmakers being young, I just don't think Drew Brees can really keep what he's doing being at that level for so long. But yeah, for at least this upcoming season, week 15, oh man, this matchup would be completely explosive. I think, you get that offensive you get those offensive highlights there, kind of like what we were saying with the Chiefs Bucks, but also don't rule out the defenses, like you said, right? The Saints also got some playmakers: Cam Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, Marcus Williams is still there, right? We got a lot of playmakers, as well as you mentioned, right? Tyrann Mathieu, Frank Clark, Chris Jones. Anthony Hitchens is one I think you forgot to mention, who I think is a really good player. Both defenses have the key pieces to make this even a defensive battle, and I think the Chiefs, Saints, Bucks, all these teams, even the Ravens, have these big matchups that we're going to see, and we're really going to see them get tested, and we're going to see how they react to them as being the hunted versus the hunters, right? Because a lot of these teams had their up-and-coming wave, but now they're here, and, teams are going after them, and I think if you get games where the contenders are fighting, you're going to see the best of them, and you're also going to see the worst of them. I think that's great for an NFL fan.
Yeah, it's just – we get to see the big teams square off against each other normally, but I don't remember a year where this many big games are on the schedule. And I guarantee you there will be teams that we don't think will be the star teams in the league, like the Ravens last year. We didn't think that they'd be so great. And they will come up too, and their games will be super important. Like we mentioned, maybe the Broncos play some big games. They play the Bills. They play, obviously, the Chiefs and the Chargers, who could be good. Like there's a lot of potential in a lot of these divisional games too. I think if we want to move to another divisional game, obviously Eagles Cowboys is a great one every year, but playing in week 16, that could be a huge game. And every year they play towards the end of the year, it's a huge game.
Yeah, actually, I think that's one I wanted to highlight when we were kind of making our list. Eagles Cowboys here, and last year they also played week 16. We got to see Walk-It-To-Him Wentz, win the division. You guys know how much I like him, but it was a great game. They kept it low scoring. He made enough plays, but obviously he didn't have much on his side, but he made enough plays to win the game. And as a result, they made the playoffs while the Cowboys finished 8-8. This time, though, it's at Dallas, and Wentz hasn't played well at Dallas. Dallas owns Philly the last couple of years at their home. So if Wentz can beat them at Dallas, I think this is going to be really crucial for the division. But however, right, it's in Dallas, and that's actually what happened 2 years ago when Dallas won the division at 10-6. So I think this time, Wentz is going to have a key test because I don't believe Wentz was playing that game. So this is going to be a big test for him, right? Week 16. I think you got to love the storyline here, right? Big matchup, Eagles Cowboys. These two teams absolutely hate each other, and really, it's got a good storyline wrapped up. Dak's still going to be, without. Unfortunately, he doesn't have his deal. As we're recording this, he didn't sign the deal July 15th. So, it's going to be a lot of storylines up there. CeeDee Lamb. You got the whole Eagles secondary with the makeover with Darius Slay, no Malcolm Jenkins. So I think it's got a lot on the line there. Can Mike McCarthy get his first win? And I think that's probably going to be the biggest game of that season for Dallas. If I'm the Dallas Cowboys.
That division in general.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. So I think that's a really good one. If you want to switch gears here and go to other divisional games.
Wait, can I quickly ask you couple questions off the Eagles and Cowboys? Obviously, we saw the Madden ratings come out this week. What do you think, first of all, Dak and Carson Wentz, the same Madden rating, and that it's an 84 overall.
Man, you don't gotta get me mad right now. I was so mad when I saw that. I was pissed off. Like that. Wentz at an 84. Come on, man. Like that just made me so mad. Look, I don't understand. There are people who genuinely believe like it's not close between Dak and Wentz, and they favor Dak. And you know, I can't see an argument for it. I really can't. Like I love the two. Both quarterbacks are in my top 13, but I just have Wentz like 6 spots ahead, just because like his talent you can't ignore. I think Wentz should be an 87. I think people would be fine with that rating, but yeah, it just made me really mad. Those were two ratings like that. Just 84, bro, and Watson at 86. Like
hey,
just not right there.
EA Sports got the reaction they wanted. I mean, they're kind of.
I guess they are blowing up, just not in a very good way.
But sometimes that's how you get people to buy your game, I guess, by making some pretty bad ratings.
Exactly.
We actually have a post on our Instagram of who we think was mainly snubbed during the Madden rating. So you guys should go check that out. We'll leave our Instagram down in the description. But yeah, feel free to move on to some more divisional games. I just wanted to rile you up a little bit.
I was actually going to maybe talk about another Week 16 matchup here. Now, it's not going to be as highlighted because Tom Brady's not on the Patriots anymore, but Pat's Bills. And what I was going to say about this game was, look, again, another quarterback that I like is Josh Allen. And, he hasn't been able to beat the Patriots. I believe he's 0-4 against them. And this is at New England, Week 16. And I know it's not Tom Brady, but they're still Belichick and it's still Cam Newton. They still have most of their pieces from last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's still a really good secondary. So I think this is also like it is for Wentz. I think this is a really good test for Josh Allen. Can you beat the Patriots on the road, right? This probably will be for the division. I think I would probably bet 60-40 that this will be the game for the division. I think these are the two favorites to win it, and I think this will probably be the game for it. Unfortunately, the Jets are not my favorite to win this division, Jack. I'm sorry to say that, but I think if Josh Allen wins this game, right, I think the Bills will be the clear-cut favorite for the division. He had a chance last year. Unfortunately, he couldn't pull it off. Obviously, one team went 12-4, the other 10-6. So I think this is a really, really big test for him. And if he can beat New England at their house, at Gillette, I think it's going to say wonders for Josh Allen's development for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I previously said on an episode that there's no chance the Patriots win the division. But in the off chance I'm wrong, which, hopefully I'm not. I don't really want the Patriots to win the division again. If they were to do it, I think they would need a win in this game. Exactly. And so if their situation is there, this is a super important game because, name the last time someone other than the Patriots won that division. It's
I think
forever
it's been
ago.
10 years. They've won. I think they've won 18 out of 20.
They won every one last decade. I know that.
Yeah, last decade I know. I think it was 18 of the last 20. I think the Dolphins got one in there, but yeah, I think. How about I ask you this though? I think in that division, do you see maybe one sneaking in as a wild card, or do you think it's only one team's coming out of that division?
See, I think the Bills are somehow still underrated. I don't like the Bills.
Yeah, I
think that they are AFC contenders. I would put them as the third team behind the Chiefs and the Ravens.
Third.
So I think
over the Titans, you'd say?
I think so. I think I'm going to, just because I think they're better coached than the Titans. I think the Titans may struggle a little bit without Conklin, and just I'm still not sure what I'm getting from Tannehill. I'm still not sure what I'm getting from Josh Allen, but I don't like Josh Allen.
Don McDermott's a good coach, though. I'll give you that. But so is Mike Vrabel. Let's not ignore that, though.
But I just think that also an easier division, I think, than the AFC South with the Colts. And I think people also forget about the Texans, too. Like, just because they lost DeAndre Hopkins does not mean they're –
Exactly. They still have 4 really good receivers. Stills, Fuller, right? Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, I believe they have.
And they got better.
Solid.
They got better at running back, as much as people don't like David Johnson being on the team since DeAndre Hopkins was gone. They're better at running back. Deshaun Watson's only getting better.
Same as Justin Reed. I think people forget him. He's a very good safety.
And offensive line is improving. So that, I think, just the AFC South being a little bit tougher than the AFC East. Well, I'd say a lot tougher, but want to respect my chest a little bit on that one. But I just think that the Bills, I put them at the number 3 right now, and I think that they should be the easy favorites for this division. But I can see the Patriots stinking in.
I think this is the test. I think this is where they prove it. At Gillette, they have to, because that is the house that has ruled the division for 20 years. And that is the house you've got to go in and beat and establish yourself as a top 4 team in the AFC, which is, I think, Bills could definitely do that. But
and if they're able to go into the Gillette and maybe foil a playoff playoff push for the Pats. Can you think about how much momentum that would give Buffalo? I mean, that would.
Yeah, that's a
I mean,
big win. Even if Brady's not there, I think that is a huge win just to get it under Josh Allen's belt. Man, that's huge.
I'll say this. I'll go a little bit farther. I think that the Bills can push for a bye week.
For a bye week?
Okay. I think there's a possibility that the Bills
that's
have a
possible.
bye week.
Yeah, I in the hot takes episode, if you guys want to check that out, one of them I said the Ravens potentially might not even get a top 2 seed. So someone could fill that. And I think with the NFL, it's just so unpredictable. So yeah, I can definitely respect that take.
I just feel like in the AFC North and the AFC West, the Chiefs and the Ravens are the favorites to have the 1 and 2 seeds. I just think that the Chiefs could get pushed by the Broncos. They could get pushed by the Chargers, and they might have trouble playing the Raiders. No, I'm saving that for the AFC North because I think that the Ravens could get pushed by the Steelers, the Browns, and possibly even the Bengals in a couple games.
Bengals, okay.
No,
Joe Burrow.
The 2 games they play obviously will be harder with Joe Burrow. We don't know what to expect from him, but I just think that there's more teams in those 2 divisions than there are in the AFC East to possibly push the Bills, and so I think that they could capitalize and steal one of the top 2 seeds in the AFC.
Potential. I think if you're okay with switching to another game, if that's okay with you, I kind of hate to stay on the Week 16 train, but I mean this just got loaded with games. How about Vikings Saints? That's another one. We're switching to the NFC here. Look, I think everyone's made enough memes about it. We've seen the Minneapolis Miracle. We've seen the blown. I mean, I have pass interference call. I don't think it was a bad call, but we've seen that with the Saints the past 2 years. Obviously, with the whole thing with Kyle Rudolph. But yeah, the Vikings are 2-0 against the Saints in the playoffs the last couple of years. Obviously, the Saints beat Brett Favre in 2009 in the NFC Championship, so they've had their playoff battles. I think we can all concede that. But recently, the Vikings have been the Saints' quote-unquote kryptonite, and we see it here in the regular season, which we haven't seen in a while. And it's at New Orleans, same place. But I'm sure people are going to pick the Vikings after, the Saints just brutal loss for them. And I know, Jack, they're your Super Bowl favorite, but I mean, there are just teams that even with the best roster, it's just there's always a kryptonite for them sometimes. And
man, I just want to believe it so bad.
Yeah, hey, I want Brees to get that second ring as much as you do, man. I think he deserves it the most out of any quarterback really in this league. I think he deserves it. Same with an MVP. I was under the belief that he should have won it in 2018, but yeah, I think this is a really good game. Good game between 2 great coaches as well, Sean Payton, Mike Zimmer. Good defenses. I mean, you know what we're getting. I think the rookies will play a big factor, though. I think Justin Jefferson. It's Week 16, so he's got his feet wrapped in the NFL by now. How will the Vikings secondary handle Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook, right? I mean, I know you got the 2 safeties, but, Michael Thomas is just Michael Thomas. So I think it's got a great matchup there. What do you think about that, Jack?
So, yeah, I think there's a couple storylines in this game. If both of these teams make the playoffs, it seems like they're going to play each other somehow every year.
It's seemingly inevitable, man.
Yeah, but I also think that, the NFC North is a very hard to predict division. I don't think it's the toughest division in the NFL, but I think it's every team. As much as I don't like the Lions, a lot of people think that they could compete for a playoff spot somehow. I've seen a lot. No, trust me, I've seen it. A lot of people are saying people are sleeping on the Lions.
Because Stafford had an MVP year in the 8 games he played. I'm not buying that.
No, neither am I.
Zero playoff wins 10 years. I'm not buying it.
But the fact that the Packers, the Vikings, and the Bears all have a shot at winning the division, and you see tons of people predicting all 3 of them. I just think that this game, if the Vikings lose to the Saints, towards the end of the season, you need to be able to win games, and this could put them out of reach of winning the division and possibly even the playoffs. So it's a huge game. I also want a little just small thing. I think Justin Jefferson can compete for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I really do.
Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think he is going to.
For a receiver, it's especially hard because last time I think it happened was Odell, and he had 1,300 yards that season.
I think Justin Jefferson.
1,300, dude.
He will lead the rookies in receptions. I would say he will lead the rookies in receptions.
But I don't see it. But that's what I'm saying though. I know this receiver class is stacked, but that's not going to be enough. I think you've got to have a good record. One, I think you got to lead your team to. You got to have one iconic moment. Sure, if you Moss's Marshawn Lattimore, some iconic. Odell had the catch.
Yeah, no,
he had something that was insanely iconic. He had the stats to back it up. I mean, it's I just think him out of all receivers would be a weird one to go with. I think you could
He's the number 2 option on the team. I think he'll play a Stephon Diggs like role, and we've seen what that can happen. And playing in the slot as a rookie, I think he'll get a lot of targets. He might honestly get more targets than Adam Thielen, and I wouldn't be
okay.
surprised.
I'm not ready to go. I'm not gonna say that's blasphemous, but I'm like, dude, like I'm under the. Remember, I think one of my bold takes was Thielen making an All-Pro team. I just think Thielen is the guy you can rely on. Jefferson's a big wild card, though. I agree with you there. But I mean, there are other receivers I can name, like Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, potentially if he thrives under that weird system, gets a lot of targets. Who knows? Maybe even Denzel Mims if him and Sam Darnold have an insane connection. Like, I know you're happy about that
2,000 yards from Denzel Mims. Watch.
Yeah, exactly. Just wait on it. But yeah, like I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I just don't see Justin Jefferson being offensive rookie of the year. I think there's a lot of other guys you could go with there. But if you want me to throw another game out there, this is kind of a what if kind of scenario though, but I think it has a big likelihood of happening. Week 13, Bengals Dolphins, teams that you wouldn't really think about, but Joe Burrow, Tua.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of
that could bring some excitement, and I mean, yeah, who like Joe Burrow, who's favored to win offensive rookie? Like, I mean, it's just and LSU, Alabama, right? I mean, it's got a good vibe to it, I think. And these two teams, who knows? I feel like they're like, my Dolphins pick now. It's like I really wanted them to go 9-7, but it's like Cam Newton says, you know what? Nah, Nish, we're not gonna agree with you there. I mean, who knows though? I think these teams could be really solid. Maybe by week 13, who knows? Maybe they could be like 6-5, 5-6. Maybe these two teams could be at that record. Fighting with each other for a win here. I think they're two great teams that could maybe compete in any game, and I think Burrow and Tua it's just popcorn.
Burrow and Tua will be compared for their entire careers as the two first quarterbacks drafted in the class, and this is the first time they'll be going at it together. So I just think that it's going to be a game that's talked about for a while, especially if both become great quarterbacks.
And if they light it up in the game.
This game could be talked about forever. I mean, people still talk about probably like the first time that Brady played Roethlisberger or Brady played Eli. I mean, when you have two quarterbacks that are both young and they're both looked at as maybe the face of the league in a couple of years, you're going to talk about the first time they played, and this is the first time that these two.
Yeah, I think Lamar Mahomes was probably the example you were looking for there.
Yeah, I mean
that was. Yeah.
It's just when you have two young quarterbacks play each other, it's going to be important, and if they both end up being good, it can be talked about for a while, which makes it an exciting game, just kind of off the bat.
Just for the outlook of the franchises too.
I agree.
Those Dolphins haven't had much recently.
Mm-hmm.
It's good vibe for them.
Yeah, it's good for them to get an exciting game because it's sometimes you don't want all the exciting games to be the biggest teams every year.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, could you name a game you were excited for the Bengals to play last year?
When we beat them, I think that's Denzel Ward got his pick.
I would probably say when they played the Ravens and he somehow took them to win that game, but
Oh my god, man, that was so funny.
He still says he was joking, but I'm not.
We're not buying it. We're not buying that. Nope.
But I think one more game. There's a couple more big games. Week 17 in the divisions. Seahawks 49ers, and I think Steelers Browns solely.
Yeah.
I think that TJ Watt and Myles Garrett could be competing for Defensive Player of the Year, and so week 17 that could swing it. And I think that's really important. Say one of the teams is set for a playoff push. Do they sit that player and it risk them, not winning the award? I think that's just kind of a one thing that just stuck out to me as a possibility.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm. I think that's interesting. I was even going to think, I thought you were leaning to where it's like who plays better in the game. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like these two teams will be competing for a wild card. As much as it pains me to say this, I don't think either of them would win the division. I think it's Baltimore's to lose. I think Baltimore's for sure. But I think these two teams have a chance at a playoff spot from seeds 5-7. So I think, could they both be 9-6 going into this game? And it's I think it could be huge. Obviously, what happened the last time the Steelers played the Browns in Cleveland. We know what happened. Helmets were thrown and stuff. I don't want to talk about it, but at the time though, Myles Garrett was the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. I know you have TJ Watt as your early pick. I would say I do too. Maybe Myles Garrett is. I think those are my two though, top two. I think those are the top two that everyone is saying. I mean, you could throw in Aaron Donald and Chandler Jones. But I think those are the two young stars who are emerging. And obviously Garrett just got his big extension. TJ Watt's bound to get one soon. So these are two great players that we could talk about. We could even talk about Baker Ben. Who knows what Baker's going to be like by the end of week 16? Maybe
Who knows
he's
what
back
Ben's
to
going to be like at the end of week 16?
Yeah, exactly. Both of them. Same thing with the receivers, right? Has Juju broken out and hit over 1,000 yards by week 17? Has Odell Beckham regained his Giants form, right? After having the sports hernia last year. Same thing with Jarvis Landry with the whole severe hip injury. Like there's just a lot of questions there. And damn it. Can we?
Yeah.
Can you edit that out? Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. Damn it. I forgot to turn off Do Not Disturb. Okay. Can you edit that out?
Yeah, just start again.
Right. Tell me when to continue.
Go.
Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of questions looming. Can Juju Smith-Schuster, will he be over 1,000 yards by the time week 17 hits? Same thing with Odell Beckham. We had a sports hernia last year. Jarvis Landry with the severe hip injury. I mean, there's just a lot of players that we can talk about with the Steelers and the Browns. And it's just they always play well against each other. Obviously, as a Browns fan, I've seen the latter half of it where the Steelers beat us. But, hey, maybe the Browns beat them, make it in the wild card, and who knows what happens. I think could happen the other way around as well. I think that's a really good game that could bring a lot of excitement. Obviously, Myles Garrett comes back at his own turf. Mm-hmm. Hopefully he lights it up and sacks Ben Roethlisberger 4 times, but that's just wishful thinking. I think let's go on to an –
I just think, there's a lot of statistical storylines in that game that, I mean, even if they're not competing for the playoffs, if that could still be an interesting game. You'd think that Nick Chubb could have the rushing title this year.
Ooh, good
and
point.
The Steelers have a great defense. Like, that's just – it's very interesting matchups that could possibly happen. And looking into the season, it's just interesting to think about what could happen.
Yeah, great point. I think if you allow me to maybe go on to another game.
Actually, okay, before we go on to that one, the one we mentioned, Seahawks 49ers is obviously a great game every time. But I think the Seahawks could – I honestly don't know who I'm favoring to win the division yet. And so I could have the Seahawks. I could have the Niners. I'm still waiting – I'm still just waiting to see something happen. When Deebo Samuel got hurt, I shifted it a little bit closer to the Seahawks, but I still haven't made a prediction.
Don't remind me, man. Come on, bro.
I had to throw that out there. But it's just that game, every single year, the second time they play is super important. And now it's week 17. I just think, obviously, it's an important game that's probably one of the best of the year.
Yeah, same thing as like last year, right? Big implications for the division. It was literally a game of inches. Big tackle by Dre Greenlaw and Jacob Hollister. I still remember watching that live. Insane game, great game to watch. I think we're gonna get another great game here. I think they're 2 contenders. And you're right. I really don't know who's gonna win that division. I think it's tough because like the Seahawks roster is just not like it's not the best, but they always just manage to win 11, 12 games. And like, I mean, it's just the magic of Russell Wilson. And I know there are a ton of people who believe he's the best quarterback in the league. I'm here to tell you right now he is not. Unfortunately, he's the second best. He's clear number 2. I think the difference between him and Lamar is very big. But the difference between him and Mahomes is also very big. I think Mahomes is a clear-cut one. I don't think that should be an argument over any fan, no matter what team you are. That is the clear number 1. Patrick Mahomes is number 1, but that's the story for another day. I think this matchup, though, will be great for NFL fans, and especially for Niners and Seahawks fans. I think the winner will probably get – well, I mean, now, Jack, I know you mentioned it, but remember the whole first-round bye thing? It's only one team now. So maybe remember last year was the Niners trying to keep that 1 seed. Who knows? Maybe it happens again. Maybe they're fighting for that 1 seed. Maybe they're just both really that good, and they're both maybe 12-3 fighting for it. So, you never know how these things turn out, but I think it's going to be a great game. I really couldn't tell you who's going to win because this is at San Francisco, and last season, both the road teams won, so maybe both the home teams win. We never know. But, yeah, I think that's a good one. If you allow me to kind of switch it, I was actually going to keep it with the Seahawks theme. I think this one is a really, really underrated matchup. Week 12, Seahawks and the Eagles. I think this one is going to be incredible. It's at Philadelphia again for the 3rd straight time. Obviously, the Seahawks won both matchups. I think the same score. I think it was 17-9 both times. But, again, this is another test for Waggatum Wentz. I think, right, he didn't get to play the one against the Seahawks. He was doing okay, but he was marching them down before, obviously, the dirty hit by Clowney, which I will argue it's a dirty hit. And Clowney, I hate you for not signing with us, but, it's okay. You were just a dirty player anyway. So, Eagles.
He definitely listens to the episodes. You can tell.
Yeah, exactly. So, Clowney, if you're watching this, I mean, okay, if we're being real, please, dude, please come to us. But all right, moving on. I think with the Eagles and the Seahawks, right? I haven't seen the Eagles beat them yet, but I think they kept it close with Josh McCown. So I mean, maybe this could be another matchup in the playoffs that we see. But it was a wild card matchup last year. I think it was a good rematch, good storyline for Wentz to maybe see. Maybe he would have won the game in the wild card, but again, we can't play on what if. So I think this is a good matchup. What do you think?
No, I definitely agree. And I think that, I mean, Wentz could at this time be competing to be named one of the top QBs in the league. Maybe he's even pushing for that number 2 spot. I mean, who
Or
knows?
that MVP season. Never know.
But I mean, both these players, the people think that they could potentially be an MVP. I've seen a lot of Wentz MVP predictions. I've seen a lot of Wilson MVP predictions, and both of them will be competing, I believe, for their divisions. So this is obviously an important game because one of them takes a step forward in their division, one of them takes a small step back. And so whenever you have two contenders playing, especially even like middle of the season, it's very important. And I think it's
exactly good point.
So I just think that that game is a huge game, and I just think that both of these teams, those two divisional races, could be the tightest in the entire league.
NFC West, yeah, NFC East, and they're always tight. I mean, we've seen it for the last couple of years. Whether it was the Seahawks, Rams. I mean, sometimes we even saw it a couple of years ago with the Cardinals, Seahawks, right? Niners, Seahawks. It's always tight down there in the NFC West. Same thing with the NFC East. Really, I don't know who wins that division each. Like last decade, it was like I think each of them got an even number of wins. Towards the end, obviously, it's Cowboys, Eagles, and I think it's going to continue that way. But hey, you guys
always near 500 too for some reason.
Yeah, I know. Just like I don't even know, man. But I think, hey, watch out for the Giants. Who knows? Maybe they do well. You know, I'm a believer in Danny Dimes, but I think this is a good game. I think you made a great point here. One takes a step forward in the division, however, one takes a small step back. And do you want to give us another game maybe that you thought was?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned the Broncos earlier, and while they do play the Chiefs, which could be a big game, they could play the Chargers, could be a big game. But another team we talked about earlier is the Bills, and the Bills and the Broncos play Week 15. The Broncos have, I believe, the hardest schedule. I would say the hardest schedule.
No. Oh my God, I looked at that thing like.
Dude, they have to play the Jets. Oh my! Like, can you imagine?
Okay, no.
I'm
like, but like the Chiefs twice, Bucks, Pack, like it's terrible. Like
the Bills' defense against the Broncos' revamped offense, Drew Lock playing against a great defense. It's just a big game. And if the Broncos want to prove, even if it's not this year, maybe they don't win the division or make the playoffs this year, but they want to prove that they're here for the future. Beating the Bills could be a way to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point. I think Week 15, this was actually a matchup that I was telling Shriegar about. I think it's an underrated matchup. Yeah, there's not like a big storyline or like a revenge game or anything like that, but two young quarterbacks, right? Josh Allen, Drew Lock. And I think even with their hard schedule, obviously they play the NFC South, Chiefs twice. I still think they have a shot at like 9-7. I think we can all agree there. I think they, even with the schedule, I think a lot of people are having them at like 9-7. I think that's like a perfect prediction for them. I don't know why. I don't think anyone has gone off that 9-7 rating, but I think this Week 15 matchup, like you said, I think this goes the same with these two teams. One takes a step forward in just their playoff push, and another may take a small step back, which could be very crucial for the Bills, who are fighting for the division with maybe the Pats or even the Dolphins, something like that. I'm not going to say the Jets, but just it could be a big step forward, small step back. I think that's a great point that you've made that I think we could say for a lot of these games.
Yeah.
And like you said, Broncos defense bringing back players, and I think I mentioned Bradley Chubb in a previous episode. I think he's going to come back, maybe have a 12-sack season. I'm expecting that from him next year. I really like his game. I think Von Miller is still there, big defensive guy. Broncos secondary, AJ Boye, they got Jarrell Casey also on the defensive line. I mean, Broncos defense is looking really solid. Also, don't forget a young player that we haven't talked about much, but I think he could be a very good breakout candidate next year. Alexander Johnson, the middle linebacker for Denver. I think he's a prime candidate to maybe amass 100 tackles, have a really solid season in pass coverage as well. So that's another guy that we could talk about. The Bills defense, you know what it has: Ed Oliver, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, all these guys, Tre'Davious White, who also got snubbed of a Madden rating. Ooh. And you could see that in our previous post on Instagram, which is down below in the description. So yeah, great matchup here between two young AFC contenders rising. I'm not willing to call them championship contenders, but they're both playoff contenders in my book. So I think this is a really solid matchup that NFL fans should watch.
And I think there's another kind of mid-season game between AFC contenders that we've seen it before. Titans-Ravens. That could be an extremely interesting game just because both teams like to pound the ball on the ground. And I want to see, will the Ravens be able to figure it out against the Titans, or will they crumble again and the Titans could beat them again? And that could prove to be a big game, both for the Titans and the Ravens.
So I think when I looked at this game, I think, well, one key point is Conklin's not there. So Derrick Henry was most of it. If you look at his highlights, most of the runs were to the right. Obviously, the infamous stiff arm on Earl Thomas was also on the right side, so Conklin paved the way. Obviously, I know it doesn't come down to one offensive lineman, but he was crucial in that game. But I've said this countless times, I think, on the podcast, and I'll say it again. In that Ravens-Titans game, I am a firm believer that Tannehill actually won them the game because they stopped they held him, right? They were containing him in the first half. They dared Tannehill to throw. And he threw 2 crucial touchdown passes to build the lead up to 2 tight ends and beat the secondary. And tight ends beating the secondary includes the safety. So Earl Thomas got burnt. Marcus Peters got burnt in disguise coverages. Same with Marlon Humphrey. I expect Chuck Clark as well. I expect Tony Jefferson. I expected better from the Ravens secondary. They really didn't show up, both in the run stuffing game and in the pass coverage. So this is a good kind of revenge game for the Ravens, but also it's a big proving game for Ryan Tannehill, right? There's a lot of I think he is the most unpredictable quarterback next year. I think we can talk about Brady on the Bucs. You can talk about many other guys, but like, what am I going to get from Ryan Tannehill? Am I going to get that 4th highest passer rating of all time season again, or am I going to get mediocre 8-8 Ryan Tannehill? I'm a believer that he will continue what he did. There are a lot of people who are skeptical, which they have a really good point to be. Like, one season I'm banking on Tannehill as my 11th best quarterback going into next year, but a lot of people, and provingly so, they can really question my pick. But this is a good prove-it game for Tannehill. This is a good prove-it game for the Ravens. And again, this could have big implications in the AFC. What if the Titans go really crazy and they're fighting for maybe a top 2 seed? This again, like you said, small step back or big step forward. So I think this is a great game for that. And we get to see the Ravens again. Will they get exposed again on a big stage?
Okay,
that's another question.
No, I agree, and I think the Ravens, people thought they were figured out after the Chargers game a couple years ago. Lamar, people thought they figured him out. They came and they shocked everyone, and now we just need to see. Obviously, the Titans, I think, figured them out a little bit in that playoff game. Will the Ravens again be able to combat that and come up with something new against the team? So that'll be. I think that is a top 3 game for me going into next year. I'm really excited for that one. Do you have any more? Because I have one that I want to end on, but if you have one more, I'll let you go right now.
I mean, hopefully I don't steal your thunder here, but I was going to go with the Packers and the Bucs. I was going to go with that one. Hopefully I didn't steal your thunder there. Hopefully you're not thinking of Texans Chiefs, which is a good game on its own, but that's the season opener. Big game there. Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes. Just quick touch on that honorable mention. I think Ken Watson proved to me that 24-0 lead was just that one game, and he's still here to stay as the franchise quarterback for the Texans. I think that's a big prove-it game for him as a season opener. But going back to the Packers-Bucs, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, this fun fact, it's only their 3rd meeting, and they're both 1-1. I actually had a bet with my friend a couple years ago on the game, Packers-Pats, and I lost. So thanks, Tom Brady. That's when I learned never bet against Brady at home. And, I don't know why I did it. I'm really mad at myself for that, but that's beyond the point. I think this is a great game. 2 really good offenses. I think a lot of firepower there. Just Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. You got Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. And I know Jack and I have been on the fence about this. Devontae Adams and Mike Evans. I'm Devontae Adams. He's Mike Evans. And maybe we'll see a little bit of a battle there. Both defenses are also pretty solid. You got Jair Alexander, Jamel Dean on both those teams. You got the 2 Smiths for the Packers. You got Ndamukong Suh. You got Shaq Barrett. JPP. Bucs just got a lot of playmakers. Same with the Packers. And I think it's just going to be a really explosive game.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But the one that I was going to talk about is the Bucs game in Week 1, which I think is the Texans and Chiefs is a great.
How could I forget? Yeah.
No. So Texans is a great opening game, but Bucs Saints in Week 1 is the biggest prove-it game of the year for any team, in my opinion. Are the Bucs going to
prove-it game? Okay.
If the Bucs win that game, you'll see a lot of predictions change from the Saints winning that division to the Bucs winning that division. And I think that's a huge game. Brady and Breeze obviously is a huge matchup in itself, but if the Bucs can pull off a win in that game, a lot of predictions will flip. And also, if the Bucs lose that game, and even if it's, not tremendously close, you'll see a lot of people start to release their stock in the Buccaneers and write them off as just, what they used to be. So I think that's just a huge game in Week 1.
Really good point, man. I can't believe we forgot to talk about that one. It's at New Orleans, too, so this is probably one of the hardest opening games someone can ever have for a new team, and I think Tom Brady, good luck, man. But I think he's been practicing with his players, right, in Tampa Bay, despite NFLPA kind of telling him not to.
Yeah.
So he's gotten some practice in there with his players. Hopefully they're staying safe. And I think this is a great, great matchup, just both offensively and defensively. I think, but again, I mentioned the Bucks players on defense. Same thing with the Saints, right? I said it earlier: Cam Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, Marcus Williams, Malcolm Jenkins is now there. Demario Davis is a very solid linebacker. While he's aging, he's still good right now. So big playmakers there. I think this is just you. I think you said it perfectly, man. I think this is a kind of game that we need to see from Tom Brady, right? 43 years old, you finally have the weapons. I know there's not probably not going to be a preseason, so this is going to be the first test that we see you in a Bucks uniform, and I think he can. I think he can very well make this game close. I think it's very possible. And knowing in the NFL, you just never know what happens. And honestly, the Saints have been pretty vulnerable in their dome recently. I've seen a lot of close games there. I used to think they were invincible there. I think you thought that too. I think a lot of NFL fans did, but they've lost a lot of games in their dome recently. So could the Bucks pull off the upset, and how do fans react to that? Let's say the Bucks win like 34-20. I mean, that's a convincing win. Like, do people start looking and saying, "Wow, okay, Bucks really could be a Super Bowl contender." Like, I know people are kind of saying that now, but that really solidifies it. So I think that's a really interesting game that we should have talked about. Yeah, even though it's week one, I think this has big implications for the rest of the season.
Yeah, if the Bucks want to compete for that division, they've got to beat the Saints one of the two times they play them, if not
Yep.
both times. And starting in week one, that gives you a lot of momentum and a lot of good outlook on the season. So I think that I think the three biggest games I've got for the season are Chiefs Ravens week 3. I'd go Titans Ravens, and then I'd go Bucks Saints as probably my three most important games.
I'd say maybe Chiefs Bucks could be in that top three. I just think
Chiefs, Saints,
Brady Mahomes. It's always been close.
And then it's hard to write off Seahawks 49ers too.
Yeah, it's a good one too. I think it's just maybe Vikings Saints too. I think there's just a lot of games that you could put in your top three. I mean, one thing's for sure though, as NFL fans, we're excited for big games for 2020. And yeah, they may have the same teams, but there's also some sleepers that we talked about that from teams that you might not have thought of. So I think this NFL season, if we get it, it is going to be great. I think this is the most hyped up season in a while. Ratings are going to be through the roof, and I'm really excited to see some NFL football.
Dude, everyone could use just some great football games right now. And
honestly,
these games could all prove to be absolutely terrible, and everyone will still love them because we can use great football right now. And so we're both obviously really excited for every single game we talked about, and I can't wait to watch them all. But thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Down in the description, we've got our website, we've got our Instagram, and if you want to listen to us on other platforms, you can find us there, including Spotify and Apple Music. And if you're listening to this on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a 5-star rating. It'll really help. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe and leave us a like so you can be notified when we have future videos. But thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next time.